Hey, how about that? A new title sequence. After about 2 years, I figured it was about time. Anyone want to bet on how long I used this one? I'm Mark Pruitt. Welcome to the CB&Q in Wyoming. Today is May 3rd, 2020, and this is construction update number 6. April and the first couple of days in May saw a lot of progress in the train room. The subfloor was finally finished, rough-in wiring for room outlets was mostly completed, and as you can see, Sheetrock is now being installed. Right after the April update, the next day in fact, we finished the stud wall for the continuation of the wall at the bottom of the stairs to the left in this shot. Then I bounced over to the opposite side of the basement to work on the cut-up walls with all the pipes against them. Here the insulation has gone up. And at this point I stopped wall construction to finish the subfloor. Here that missing piece right next to the furnace has finally been placed. The other missing pieces near the hallway behind the stairs were also cut and installed. It's now April 14th. So back to all those short walls. Here you can see how I had to segment the wall with the vertical pipes. There are 2 pipes, but the smaller diameter one is out of the frame to the left. It was handled the same way as the one you can see. Then it was back across the room again to finish the angled wall. That's the wall where the mirror was leaning earlier. And then back over to the other side again. Getting dizzy yet? The last few walls on this side are close to the heating ducts, so these stud walls took a bit of extra effort. The first one had a branch coming off very near the wall, so I had to trim a stud and the top plate a bit to clear. After that, I stuffed a bit of fiberglass insulation between the studs and the duct. The long wall behind the stairs, which I hadn't planned on doing until later, had an additional complication. It's a bit hard to see in this shot, sorry about that, but the water lines for the master bath run below the joists behind the duct, so I couldn't just attach the top plate of the stud wall to the bottom of the joists as I had elsewhere. So what I did was build a couple of spacers out of 1x2 red oak. I stacked 2 sections of the oak boards atop one another, creating a 1.5 inch clearance for the water lines. It's now April 22nd, by the way. Here's the second spacer farther down the wall. Why did I use red oak? Because a regular fir or pine 1x2 might split when I drove the screws in, and so not hold the stud wall securely. I figured it was worth an extra few bucks here. Of course, there was also a branch off the heating duct here, which you can see in the distance. So we had to provide clearance for that right at the very end of this stud wall. Here's Jewing working on cutting the top plate for the branch. Ever cut a 2x4 over your head using a handsaw? Lots of fun. But we got it done, and here's the wall in place. And yes, I helped with the trimming. I didn't make my wife do it all. A few words about this wall. This was the one I was going to do later with the rest of the basement. But that would have left an unfinished small section of wall in the train room, and I would have been making a mess there to finish it later. Plus my wiring plan has the switch and dimmers for the overhead lights right at the near corner. You'll see that in a minute. So it was just easier to put down another sheet of subfloor and finish the entire wall now. And on April 23rd, with this last short wall in the middle of the screen, finally all the train room stud walls were done. The next day saw the start of rough-in electrical. These shots show boxes installed for some of the train room outlets. In this picture, the 2 higher boxes on the wall behind the stairs are the ones for the light switches and dimmers for train room lights. Over the next few days, I ran the outlet wires. There are 2 20-amp circuits planned for the train room. This should give me ample power for the layout and for tools. In order to finish wiring the last couple of outlets, I had to go back and finish framing that window I left unfinished a couple of months ago. Anyone remember that? I didn't think so. But I did use the Torx head screws I talked about instead of nails, and as I thought, it was a lot easier. In fact, About half the stud walls were assembled using Torx screws rather than nails. The screws were a lot easier than using a hammer. And with the window framed, I was able to install the wires for the last 2 outlets on April 29th. But this update isn't finished yet. The last day of April, we started installing a wallboard. The first 2 pieces went in this corner. The wall on the right is the left end of the 40-foot wall, and the left is the wall in what I've started calling the alcove. This work is going relatively quickly. The next day we got several more sheets up. This part of the room is beginning to look like a room. And on May 2nd, the first window, the one I just framed a couple of days ago, is now sheetrocked. 8 sheets are now installed, and we have to run to Menards to get more. So this update is complete. Quite a bit done this past month, I'd say, especially for an old guy like me. During May, I hope to finish most, if not all, of the sheetrock installation and get a good ways along with the mudding and sanding. Painting will probably have to wait until June. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stay healthy, and I'll see you next month.